I want to thank everybody here for jumping on and talking about this really cool project focused around the GH7. And before we kind of like actually dive into some of the highlights about it, I want to kind of introduce all of you to the Lumix Live viewership. Let's start with Josh, since you are on my right on the screen right now. Hey, Josh, can you give us a little bit of kind of introductions, who you are, what you do?
Hey, I'm Josh Walker. I primarily film off-roading and things in the outdoors. So dirt and just getting in the middle of nowhere and finding the scenery or dirt that I can find. If you can see behind me, I'm literally in the middle of the desert at a race right now. Snuck off so that I could hop on here. Um, so yeah, I basically if it's breakable, I'll break it. Kind of is my motto, and so you can
Nice.
find me out here in the middle of nowhere.
So Josh, with what you're doing right now, I mean, you have this beautiful sunset happening behind you, and obviously, I mean, you and I have talked many times before with like motorsports and stuff like that. What kind of event is it that you're at right now? Because it looks like something I am desperately wishing I was at right now.
So this one's called King of the Hammers. I'm out in Johnson Valley, California. So basically, it's kind of the culmination of really what's possible with motorsports. So out here, you'll find everything from they had little just stock bugs racing on a race course to earlier this week, it was desert pre runners out there. I think one of them hit 138 miles an hour on the desert. With helicopters flying all over the place. So you're racing around trying to get these different vantage points without dying, to where now they're kicking it into the rocks. So we're talking 1,000 horsepower vehicles with 44-inch tires. And then tonight there's even a three-wheeler race where they're doing a circle track with three-wheelers. So basically, if it's a vehicle that goes in dirt, it's out here racing and beating it up. And I'm out here to capture that.
That's so freaking sick, man. Like, hey, and fireworks. There we go. It's like perfect timing, man.
Yeah, ta-da.
There you go. Dustin, you're the next one up. You are on my left here. Who are you? What do you do?
My name's Dustin Armstrong. Over the past 12 years, I've done a lot of varying roles in the production world as far as video, DP, producing for various different companies and agencies, as well as being an independent contractor. These days, most of my time is taken up by actually working for a YouTuber and also doing my own YouTube content. And yeah, also trying to get some other various freelance roles as well, like this project. So
Nice. Now, would you say that you're my number one travel companion, or I'm your number one travel companion?
yes, actually, yes. And I'm surprised you didn't travel with us on this project. Like we
I,
needed you.
you know, hey, so for anyone also joining, clearly as we had said, like with this session, Josh is out in the field, which is so cool. Being able to like actually tune in and stuff. But every once in a while throughout this, we may have a little bit of noise of the trucks and the cars and everything running in the background. It just adds a little bit of that extra flavor to the system, right? But Dustin, I think we've known each other for quite a while, and there's been a number of times where you've been out at random trade shows, and we've kind of seen each other, and people always kind of go to you, and then you end up showing up at the booth and asking these weird questions to me about like what's coming next. Like is that like your thing at some of these shows, or are you just kind of like really loving to just come into the booth and just poke fun at like Matt or I?
You know, I think it's kind of just I've kind of become that guy after, especially after this last year or 2024 when I came to NAB. Uh, but yeah, it's just kind of giving I create content myself and I want to not just create content for myself, but also kind of give a little bit of that, window into like the Lumix world and make people that watch kind of feel that connection, not just that I have with you guys, but also through my videos, through you guys, right? Through the Lumix community. And so, yeah, that's kind of why I guess I've become that guy.
And honestly, man, I'm actually really surprised that you're not doing this entire conversation running down one of the Las Vegas hotel hallways. I was kind of hoping for it, so I'm a little let down, man. Like
Yeah.
honestly, in my core. But hey, I get it. I get it.
I,
This
you
we have
know,
to be a little more professional here.
Yeah, and behind the curtain, that's what people see me as. But in reality, I'm usually just in my basement editing. So it's not as exciting and glamorous as people might see in any kind of videos. You're more just spending most of your time in post production. So
Well, I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about that a little bit as we go. But next up, I got Dylan, who's like right down here on my screen. So, Dylan, it's been a while, I think, since you and I have chatted. Definitely longer than I think I had wanted to, because for those that don't know, Dylan was part of the Lumix Shutter Showdown and made an amazing piece, amazing pieces for that entire project. But yeah, Dylan, can you give us a little bit of a background, who you are, what you do?
Yeah, so I'm Dylan Kato. I am a filmmaker based in Utah, from Seattle originally, and I specialize in, I don't even know what I specialize in, just a lot of different things. I'm a freelance filmmaker, so I take what I can get, and I love nature. I love filming for like outdoor companies. I love like documentary style work. I'm kind of dipping my toe into narrative stuff. Um, but yeah, I was on the Shutter Showdown. Was that last year? No, 2 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. 2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years
Wow.
ago. Yeah, and that was just a blast. Got to meet Sean and a bunch of other people, and then it's opened up a lot of opportunities with you guys with Lumix, and so I've been really grateful for that. So yeah.
Yeah. So I guess the question is, were there any slackliners involved in this project?
Uh, yeah, Josh got out on the Slack line quite a bit, actually. No, there were
So
not, unfortunately.
so for those that may not have seen it, there is an amazing piece that Dylan created during the Shutter Showdown project, which luckily I was able to be on site and kind of watch the BTS of with a slackliner. And I gotta say, man, like holy crap, the footage that came out of that was so freaking awesome. And I think that was all what S52Xs at the time.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, like man, like I'm so excited that you ended up getting to be involved with this project, and people get to see your work, within this. So no, this is like awesome being able to see everybody kind of get together and create really awesome stuff. And it's Utah. Utah's beautiful. So I know the location that you guys got was freaking sweet as hell. So with that, last but not least, I would like to chat here with my friend Jon, right below me here with the nice neon red and blue background. Jon, who are you and what is it that you do?
Yeah, my name is Jon Simo. I'm a Canadian content creator, and I've been a creator for a long time. I actually, my very first camera as a professional was a Panasonic, and I've been using Lumix ever since the GH2. But I was a traditional commercial cinematographer for a number of years. I worked in ad agencies, but more recently I've transitioned into more short form and branded content, sort of leaning into that whole internet video thing, getting to sort of conceptualize, shoot, and edit all my own projects now rather than going through the agency route. And I also educate the next generation of creators. I try to give all the knowledge I've learned over the number of years back to the community. And Yeah, that's I'm an avid cat lover as well, as you can tell by my cat mom mug.
So, John, you and I have known each other for a pretty long time, I think. Kind of like looking at the scale of how long Lumix has been kind of reaching out and trying to work with photographers, videographers, a heck of a lot more than we had ever done before. Uh, Honestly, I'd say like before COVID. Once COVID hit, I think a lot of us started kind of really looking back inside and being like, hey, there's a lot of people out there that are making some really cool stuff, and we should work a lot closer with them to help get their visions across. But I know we had was it back at the creator, not creator summit? Why can I not remember the name of the event that we did? But you're wearing the sweatshirt of the event.
Well, the Ojai event in California.
Ojai event. That's what it's called. But yeah, like you've always been this kind of like, you have a lot of these ideas and these concepts that challenge the norms of what maybe a company like us do. And I think with this project, kind of leaning into why it is that we're all here chatting together. This whole project came about because we've never really done anything like this, as far as we want to do a project, and usually it's we reach out and we have a concept in our minds already, and we reach out to a filmmaker or a photographer and we say, hey, this is our idea, can you make it come to life? But this project was very different, right? This was something that came from your brain originally. Can you give us a little insight into that?
Yeah, well, the GH7 came out last year, as you know, and it was a successor to one of my all-time favorite cameras, the GH6. But I felt like there was something missing from some of the fanfare and sort of general buzz about the camera online. I don't think the camera was really put in the hands of the creators in a professional setting as much as I would like to see. And being part of the Lumix creators backstage community, it's always been important to me to foster as much collaboration as possible. And I wanted to get together a group of fervent, talented shooters to basically push the limits of the GH7 to show people straight from a creator to another creator exactly what the camera can do. And sort of crafted this lofty project of 5 days in a southern Utah desert, shooting motocross and off-roading and time lapses and drone and light painting and sort of all these things to come together to tell a cohesive story, not just about the camera, but about the creators using the camera as well. So it sort of brought this multi-talented group together where we had Josh, Dustin, and Dylan, all sort of bringing something unique to the table. And it was really cool to be able to create something from the ground up from a creator perspective rather than sort of a camera launch perspective or commercial perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, there's always those, especially when it comes to products, right? Like from our perspective, like the brand's perspective, right? There's always we're going to launch this product, we want to show it off in the most beautiful, perfect lighting that there ever could possibly be, and that's every brand, right? But what I found amazing was the idea, the concept when it got presented, and then I came on board a little bit later in the process with the rest of our team. The whole idea that you mentioned already of like bringing in multiple people, bringing in talent from everywhere to be able to add their, kind of touch, their, perspective, their style to the particular content. And I guess from this, because we're not going to go too much into the project yet. Ideally, I would love for people to actually go at the end of this stream. We're going to, actually tell you where you can go follow each of these amazingly talented photographers and videographers so that you can see the actual content itself in the way that it would be better instead of just regurgitating, recorded stuff here on the stream. But with going through, all of this, it massively shows such a diverse set of perspectives in how you approach these projects. So I want to start with Jon. When approaching this project, what were your kind of like goals behind, like, yes, we know what the project is, but what were your personal goals with this particular project in the GH7?
Well, one of my primary goals was to show people just how good this camera is, because I think it's amazingly underrated as a cinema camera, a proper cinema camera. And the fact that for a few $1,000s, you can shoot something that is on par with Hollywood. So with a bit of know-how and skill set, it's amazing to me. So I wanted to create something that felt like it would be achievable and inspiring for other creators to pick up this camera and do it themselves. And to also see that gear doesn't necessarily have to be the limiting factor. Same with budget, right? You don't need $1 million or a high-sense cinema camera to create this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But what sort of tied it all together, made it special for me, was the story element, where I didn't want it to be this hodgepodge of beautiful looking shots that ultimately feel sort of empty. I wanted it to feel like it's sort of telling the creator's story and process while learning about the camera in this very cohesive way. And the theme to this whole project is really the passion and sometimes desperation to get those shots. When time is against you, money, and gear, all these things are against you. It's how can you achieve the highest possible goals while still having fun and doing something that you like, right?
Yeah.
So it's sort of wrapped up in its own story about how we did it. Like,
yeah.
The hero visual itself is not only this epic motocross desert cinematic journey, but it's sort of how we accomplish it all at the same time.
Nice. Now, so let's go to Dylan. So Dylan, with you coming into this project, like what were your goals? When you got brought in with the creation and the content, like what did you want to get out of this?
Well, I was brought on as the behind the scenes video guy, and so my goal was just to support the group and support Jon in any way that he needed. Get some behind the scenes and kind of tell the story of the project that tells the story of how we got it. So
sounds very, very Tropic Thunder of you. I'm a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude.
Yeah. If I could just give a tiny bit of context for Dylan coming on board.
Yeah.
I met Dylan, or I saw Dylan's content through the LUMIX Shutter Showdown. I happened to be a judge on that project, and I saw just this raw talent from this young guy, and I really wanted to work with him after that. Just seeing what he can do with nothing, I knew that I could bring him on board, and I could send him off to capture the journey, and he would do it in a cinematic way without me having to micromanage, and I would get good results just letting him do his own thing. So it was an honor to work with Dylan, and he absolutely crushed it. I think he's underselling himself as like the BTS guy, because he was very much like a critical part of the team who not only captured behind the scenes of the documentary, but plenty of hero shots that have made it into the final cinematic.
Hey Dylan, you're a star, man. You're a star. Just straight up, you're a star, man.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
So yeah, I mean, like, so with it, like obviously like BTS and like, kind of documenting the event, like, I obviously those are definitely, things, right, that we end up wanting to do and we have to do with some various different projects. But there's always that kind of, tick in the back of our brains, right, of like, hey, like, I'm gonna be here and I'd really like to do this. Were there any of those things for you, Dylan, while you were on site and kind of capturing this stuff?
Oh yeah, big time, the whole time. Yeah, I mean, we were out there with Seth, the pro motocross rider, and he was insanely talented. Like the jumps he was able to do were just crazy, and I'm out there with the camera, you know, filming behind the scenes. But at the same time, I'm like, I need to like get as much footage of this as possible. Like, and I actually ended up making my own like little documentary piece with like an interview from Seth and some footage that I had shot. Um, and so yeah, I just kind of I made sure I got the BTS, but then I also like was like I couldn't resist shooting this epic thing in this crazy place that we were in. I just had to shoot as much as possible. So yeah, the whole time I was just like, okay, there's a shot here. Like, okay, we got to do this now. Like, yeah. Well, once you get in the situation, you just can't stop.
It's always how it happens, though, isn't it? It's like, hey, like, this is cool, but oh, shiny. Like, I need to go do that now. Like, I just have to itch that, or scratch that itch that I have. And I mean, from everything I've seen so far, like, holy crap, like, all of you guys have created some amazing stuff, and I can't wait for people to actually like see all of it, like all of it in its context across the board and as its own individual standalone pieces. Like, I wish I had the level of talent that all of you guys have. So bow down.
Thank you, Sean. I mean, I knew Dylan was super hyped because every day after like 12, 14 hours of shooting, as we're charging and just like praying for sleep, he's like starting to edit. He's like throwing together clips from the day. And it sort of gave us this incredible hype energy at the end of every day where we could see what we had done that day. And it really like fueled us, even though we're running on like no sleep. It gave us a lot of that creative energy to keep going.
So, Dustin, Dustin, I want to go to you now. So again, like, looking at this whole project, like there's the overarching goal of what the project's supposed to be, but what were your kind of goals, approaching into this project and as you went through it as well?
Yeah, the goals kind of evolved a lot for me because this project was very much like the unknown because I'm working with a bunch of creators I've never really worked with before. I've been around them and I've met them and I see their stuff, right? But it's always like we're also going out to a remote location. And I think, John, you actually mentioned to me, I can't remember. I swear you mentioned to me really early on, like before we got even mentioned it to Josh, maybe not, that like we should do something out in Utah. Maybe I don't remember when it was because I'm actually based in Utah as well. Me, Josh, and actually Dylan. It's kind of a funny little bonus is like John really wanted to have Dylan come be our BTS shooter, and he asked to see where he was located because, budget was a thing. We need to fly people out to this location. And Dylan just happened to be in Utah as well. So it just worked out amazingly. But yeah, because John had kind of an overall vision for it, and I wanted to try and align with it, whatever his vision was. And one of them, yeah, was to basically have some kind of hero piece for this whole overarching story, and also for my own video that will be going on my channel. And it really made me try to think like outside the box, and also like try to create something that maybe I couldn't create again without a team like this, right? Yeah. And also going into this remote location, not really knowing what I'm going to be getting, even though I have an idea of the concept, and also like how to achieve it as well. And so the goal was really just to achieve, what we set out to do. Because yeah, a lot of it was just so unknown. I was confident that we could just because everybody here is so talented. But at the same time, yeah, you question that, like, how is this actually going to happen? How are we going to pull this off, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's been a number of projects I know that, from my perspective, right? Like more on the, I guess I'd say like more like executive producer level where it's like, we're funding, not really like kind of boots on the ground kind of support of that stuff, but like seeing stuff from the outside and like knowing all of your personalities, knowing how you all work, just like watching all of this stuff come together and knowing that you guys are going into a situation that it's like there are so many unknowns just because of location. I mean, the results obviously speak for themselves. You know, people actually see what you guys have all created and how different each of your perspectives are with it. But I mean, so sick. Like, I think Dustin, you showed me a couple early shots of like some of like the dolly zoom things and stuff, and I'm just like, oh, it's like so sick being able to see that stuff in the real world and not just like in a super controlled environment where you've got, 200 times that you can redo a take, right? Versus being out in the field and then putting that into context of, your perspective, your view, what you want to get out of this. And then also knowing that you undertook you guys all undertook these challenging types of shots that you all wanted to create. Like, so cool. So awesome.
Yeah, it was a challenge, and we didn't even have signal where we were. So when we were scouting, splitting up locations and everything, we couldn't even like communicate really, because we could only communicate when we were all with each other. Really, we had to be really try to plan out when we got out there. And I think Josh might have been one of the only ones that had really been out there. I'm not sure Dylan had been. I had passed through it before, but yeah, like it was very unknown. All the location scouting was mostly just from like Google Maps and research online. So,
hey, uh, I guess the phrase of nothing's worth, I'm going to butcher this, nothing's worth doing if it's easy kind of thing. I guess you
yeah,
guys took that to heart with this
yeah,
project.
that's fair. I like that.
There were a lot of firsts in this project where we didn't know if it was going to be possible to even do what we're trying to do. I mean, I was doing some pretty advanced drone light painting, which is definitely challenging in its own way. The moving long distance dolly zoom, I've never seen anything done like that Dustin was trying to capture. The amount of work that Josh was putting into this entire project, in a way, he was his own talent for the video as well, because that's sort of what birthed this idea, is seeing a ton of Josh's content. It's this epic off-roading, like adventure style content. And I'm like, man, I would love to do something like that. And this is your backyard? Are you kidding me? So
Yeah,
that's sort of what brought Utah into the picture, finding out that both Dustin and Josh both lived in Utah. And then the magic of Dylan also being there, it just brought it all together. And I think like one of the unsung heroes of the entire production is Josh's Ford Raptor.
that he's
So,
sitting in right now.
yeah, right. So I think that's like a perfect segue. So like, Josh, what were your goals with this project? I mean, you got this amazing experience, and I mean, to be honest, I've seen your truck. It is pretty badass. you know. So what was it like for you, like going into this project, and like what did you want to get out of it?
I think like the biggest thing is I was excited to kind of bring everybody more into my element, um, and kind of be like, this is what it is, and it's everybody sees that stuff and just doesn't realize the work and like how much added difficulty comes when you're out in the dirt. And yeah, sure, maybe it looks sunny, but it's actually blowing 45 miles an hour and it's only 45 degrees, and it eats at you and it eats at your gear and everything's a little harder. And then what I wanted to get out of it was like, everybody shoots such different things than what I shoot. Typically what I shoot is I get one chance, it's run and gun, and I'm constantly moving at all times, to where I was excited to see how everybody else worked. It's so wild to see how, if we set it up this way, maybe that shot's going to be a little easier, as opposed to me just grunting it out and making it work. So I was super excited. And then, we changed a lot. Like typically you can see I'm actually in a tent right now. And usually I have that where it's a camper. I have all my stuff set up. But for what we needed to be able to have that motorcycle in there, and we needed to be able to utilize it to shoot from. And so I took a lot of the things that I'm used to having and left it. And I mean, and like Dustin was saying about communication, right now, this is probably one of the biggest reasons is now I have Starlink, because I that was frustrating. And we split up, and we'd be like, all right, if we don't see you in an hour, we'll come that way. And then just figured it out. And and I mean, and I'm talking like miles of walking to get to a vehicle to drive miles away, and then just hoping that, at one point I think I inevitably left a camera on a tripod taking a time lapse in the middle of nowhere that I had to go out back and go get it, because I was like, surely they'll see it, and or I'll be back fast enough. And neither of those were true. I wasn't back fast enough, and they took a different path. And it, I think that was the biggest thing is I left the experience having learned so much different things that maybe I take for granted doing what I do, and realizing that you can do it differently. And yeah, I'm very thankful for that.
I can
So,
confirm that Josh did indeed leave the camera out because one of the folders has 4,000 images in it for a single time lapse. I
It's
think
a
it's probably going to
solid,
end up being
solid.
like a 3-minute time lapse.
and of course, none of that would ever have actually been like able to get that footage back if you ever left that in like a downtown scene or in a bigger populated area. So, I mean, silver lining, guys. It's out in the middle of nowhere. It's not like someone's going to walk up and take the camera at that point. Although, if they did, I guess maybe they deserve it at that point.
Congratulations, because
Yeah.
you somehow got out there and we didn't see a single person. So they teleported.
So, I kind of want to, kind of transition a little bit here to, obviously with this entire project, we're talking a lot in, kind of grand scale perspective of this, right? Anyone that wants to actually see the pieces or actually, kind of interact with any of you on the pieces can do that on the pieces themselves, whether that's on social media or that's the final pieces when they're posted on things like YouTube. But a lot of this is, as John, as you mentioned in the beginning, is kind of around the GH7, and everybody these days, you know, to some perspective, ourselves included, is always so focused on full frame cameras, the S5 series or full frame in general. But this is a micro four thirds camera, and I am very, very curious, as people that have gone out into an actual scenario, use these cameras in a real production, what your experiences were. What were your, kind of takeaways from it? And I hate saying like favorite features, because that's like what I have written down in my notes here is like, what kind of question do I ask? But, you know, favorite features usually derive from things that you've experienced out in, utilizing something, whether it's a camera or a car or a truck or whatever it is. But so and I want to start with Josh on this one actually. Josh on this one actually. Um, being out there in the field working with the GH7, what what were your kind of takeaways with it, for this particular project?
One of the biggest things, it's funny you even say that, because today I'm standing and I'm surrounded by some great photographers holding lenses that are like this big. And I think that's one of the biggest things is that, you're typically carrying a huge backpack that weighs 50 pounds just so you can bring a camera body and three lenses, and the one of the biggest takeaways for me, especially using a micro four thirds, is the size of the hardware that you're using. So like I said, I was carrying everybody's stuff, and I was able to have backups and everybody's stuff in the vehicle. And the size of the lenses, the 100 to 400 is amazing, because you can handhold a eight, that would be the equivalent of an 800, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so the equivalent of an 800, is this big, as opposed to being something that's this big around. It's a pain to work with. So that's one of the biggest things that I really love about the Micro Four Thirds, and it was really brought to life doing what we do, and that transfers all the way to rigging it up on things. You know, you can have a nice, close, tight shot without having and have less rigging. We didn't have monstrosities off the side of vehicles or anything like that. We were able to go with minimal stuff that we were able to make work. I'll let John get into that later, but like we were missing some important pieces that we planned on having. So we were able to kind of just make it work because of how light that is. And that comes with a lot of different things, having that small sensor like frame rates. But I think for me, the size of the equipment makes it so that when you have to split up and walk 2 miles and I'm carrying 4 lenses, your back's not breaking at the end of the day.
So wait a minute. What you're telling me is like you didn't have like one of those like Porsche, Cayenne chase vehicles with a giant crane, like tracking everything that you guys were doing?
Nope, we had a John tethered to stuff.
But wait, I thought to be professional, you needed that kind of stuff. You needed those giant cameras and those giant cranes. You mean to tell me you were able to do this stuff without that kind of thing?
And truthfully, go ahead, John.
The almost irony of this whole thing is that it wouldn't be possible without this small camera. Because, I mean, I flew into Utah from Toronto, and I had 6 lenses in my backpack. I'd be able to fit half that if it was full frame. And if it was a cinema camera, it would just be that in a backpack. The fact that I could have so many lenses that are so versatile in a literal backpack also sort of saved us because my luggage got lost.
So, okay, I want to get to that in a second, right? There is an amazing story like across the board of like, trials and tribulations of production, right? But John, I want to get to that. I want to go grab everyone else's perspective first, because I think everything that happened, right? Like as everyone's experiences with the cameras and stuff, I think your story, I think, is going to be like a nice, like wrap it up in a bow kind of thing, right? So Dustin, I'm honestly just going to keep doing this, like just constantly going around the circle here. So Dustin, with your setup with this, like, just as I asked, Josh, what were your like kind of favorite or your memorable moments with this? Like what stood out from you with this entire project?
Yeah, so in regards to the GH7, I can't lie because my background is mostly with full frame.
Yeah.
And so the first Lumix camera I actually used was a GH5 Mark II. And so that's Micro Four Thirds, right? But I'm basically been a full frame person, and I used the GH7 prior to this project, but I can't lie, when John brought me in and said it was the GH7, I was a little like, all right, like, let's do this. I don't want to downplay it, and I got to be honest. But I think I'm really glad I was brought on, because it really gave me that opportunity to, like, in a way, give Micro Four Thirds a chance, right?
Yeah.
And walking away from it, to show you how on board I am now, they are just as capable as full frame now. It's completely shifted my opinion of Micro Four Thirds versus full frame. So much so that I actually invested myself into some lenses for the GH7 on Micro Four Thirds, because after this project, I didn't want this camera just sitting here not being used because I didn't have lenses that I liked, right? And so, but some of the kind of standout features that I got to use on the project itself. And these are a lot of the stuff are kind of available on even full frame as well. But
Yeah.
one in particular that just stood out to me was the live view composite. So I messed around a lot with star trails and was doing um, also the little trick where you plug in the HDMI and record externally so you can get a time lapse of the star trail happening and then also get the final picture at the end. And
So wait a minute. Are you saying that you used a Micro Four Thirds camera for photography?
I did. Yeah. And you know, what's funny is a lot of the times, you know, Dylan was taking up a lot of the role, Dylan and John, a lot of the role of like filming, you know, Seth, the motorist, and Josh was driving his truck. And I was like, well, we need to get BTS photos and photos in general. And everybody was doing everything, to be fair. But
Yeah.
a lot of the times I found myself changing two photos and trying to capture things, uh, you know, while taking photos. And same thing. Yeah, it's just as capable.
That's such an awesome kind of like thing, right? From modern era, you know, because I think all of you have had experiences, and I'm going to divert a little bit on this particular topic because I love this topic, right? Um, Modern photo and video creation, when you get hired to go do a project and you go out into the field, it everyone always says from like our side, from my perspective, right, from the brand's perspective, that photo and video, they're becoming a required thing when you go out into the field because your client's going to want photo and video results from it. And you know, hearing and I swear this is why I have to drop into this, because like none of this was like pre discussed prior to any of this stuff. Like, right, I sent a couple lists of questions of like, hey, this is roughly how I want to have this conversation go. But you touching on that point of like utilizing a photo function on a camera that I am willing to bet that 99% of people in the YouTube chat right now solely view the GH7 as a videography first camera. Like, and then hearing this coming from someone like you, Dustin, who is, I think it's fair to say you're probably like what, 80-90% video first.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, from like a professional sense. I mean, yes, all of us every once in a while, like we love to take photos, like whether it's with the cameras that are designed for video or not. But like actually using it and then finding yourself going into that side of this camera, but then being able to blend it into how can I use this also for video? It boggles my mind, like the creative level that you had there. So like I'm sorry for that little diatribe, but like I was just like, holy crap, like that's exactly like what we always talk about, but now someone's actually using this out in the real world. And I think that whole concept of, yes, it's live view composite to get a still photo out of it, but recording the HDMI feed to get a video piece out of it, like, you know, bow down again, man. Like that's so freaking cool.
Yeah. You know, it really just flipped my whole perspective, right? And, you know, editing the footage and everything after the fact too, seeing the footage, I'm like, you can't tell a difference between full frame and Micro Four Thirds with the right gear, right? It's like you use a good set of lenses on them and it's like totally changed my opinion, right? Believe it or not, nice lenses make a big difference. I know this, but I'm just, you know. So yeah.
Yeah. What's the phrase? You marry lenses and you date camera bodies.
Yeah. That could work. Yeah. Yeah, and this isn't something too I'm just saying because of the live stream. This is actually the truth too about the GH7. So,
well, you know, because you clarified it that way, it has to be true. I mean, granted, this is all on the internet, so it has to be true.
It has to be.
So that's truthfully, sorry to cut in on that, but the being able to flip, because once again, he was talking about coming from the older ones like a GH4 and stuff. I take photos I didn't love. And now, and it made me lean so hard into full frame. And I'm 50-50 video photo, and I pop in and out of photos daily the whole time, and it's very much used in a professional setting, and be the micro four thirds in a land of full frames.
Nice, nice. So kind of like looking at this, we obviously we've got Josh and Dustin's perspective, but like Dylan, so like knowing what you were capturing and what your goals were with this event, like working with the GH7, obviously you've had experience with the S5 Mark II X and back from that side, but like what were your experiences with the camera out in the field?
Yeah, so I am not one for like camera specs and all the technical stuff.
Yeah.
I've just never been like that. I've always just been one to just to grab the camera and start filming with it and just hope it turns out good. Um, but with the GH7, I was actually really impressed with the autofocus, especially. I am not really one to use autofocus either. I trust my manual focus. I do a lot of like handheld stuff, and when I just have the control of just turning the focus wheel, I often prefer that. But with this project, with so much going on, and with like Seth riding his dirt bike, I had to use autofocus for like the majority of it, and it was nice having the motorcycle. I'm not sure what you would call it, the
Yeah.
autofocus, whatever, where it recognizes what is a motorcycle and it focuses on that. I was like, oh, that's like literally perfect for what we're doing. So that was really convenient. And I actually just pulled up something on my phone here. Just this one moment that really stuck out to me from the shoot was me and Dustin were running as far away from this mountain as possible to get this shot of Seth on top with the sun like super compressed behind him.
Yeah.
And we used the 100-400 lens with a 2x extender, which made it the equivalent of a 1600 millimeter lens.
Yeah.
And this was my favorite shot from the project, hands down. I'm sure you can.
Oh yeah, and I'll put that image
Yeah,
up
you can
like
screen
full
share it
screen so
later.
people can see it. Like, oh, it's looks so awesome.
Yeah,
I just
and
gotta
that.
say,
Yeah, go for
sorry,
it.
go ahead. I was just gonna say, just comment on like Dylan's rig, just to speak to. He was like, I just care about like getting the camera out and filming. We totally decked out his GH7. He was just like, yeah, okay, put whatever on it. So we had like a matte box on it. We had the XLR2 on it. We had a massive battery on it. He had his external monitor on it. It was fully kitted as like a pretty much cinema rig. And he's just trooper for one, hauling that thing around, and
It
also
was heavy.
just
It was very heavy.
being willing to just like capture with that as well. So it just shows too how capable the camera was. The GH7 was, not just from like the rigging and the size and everything, but we fully kitted out Dylan's camera to be basically a rig that could run all day. So
so with that side of it, Dylan, I mean, like, not to go constantly back to like the Shutter Showdown side, like, back with that project, you were always bound by like restrictions of like, hey, you only have this. Now, granted, you got the gimbal, like you were definitely on the lucky side of some of the advantages that we gave.
Hey, I won that egg race fair and square. There was no
Yes, you
luck
did. That was definitely no contest. You won that, like, hands down. But like, going from where, that concept of an event where it's, you want to try to be as, compact and as quick and run and gun, but then being able to do a project like this where it sounds like, it was like you basically had everything that you could ever need attached and bolted onto the camera. Did you feel any differences in the way of, like kind of capturing your content from that kind of event? Or honestly, I guess to make this maybe a little more relevant to general capture versus how you would normally set your camera up? versus how you were able to set your camera up or have the guys set up the camera for this type shoot?
Yeah, the only difference I noticed was the weight of it, honestly. It was a heavy rig. I was carrying it around all day. I think I gained some muscle just lifting that thing every single day. But normally I just kit my rig out with like a top handle, honestly. Like that's all I need to get going. And it
Nice.
was nice having all the other little bells and whistles. I guess having a battery that lasted the entire day was really, really nice. But besides that, like I prefer to have my rig small and just run and gun. So like on the Shutter Showdown, I felt just right at home with how many restrictions we had and not being able to put all the gear on there. I was like, I don't really care. Like it's fine. It's a camera. I can just go out and shoot with it. Don't need too much.
Yeah, I did not envy Dylan in this scenario. As someone who's shot on like 30, 40-pound cinema cameras for like 10 years, who is permanently lopsided, and I'm not joking. My left trap is much smaller than my right because of how much camera work I've done. I actually had the least kitted out camera out of everyone, where it was just the body and a lens. And that's partly because my camera cage did not arrive with me, but I'll get to that in a moment.
So John, what you're saying is that through careful crafting of situations, you made sure that your kit was the lightest of everybody's. Positive spin, man. Positive spin. But no, this honestly, I mean, like with everything that the entire team has kind of gone through, I think John, as you alluded to a little bit earlier, there were some significant challenges that came up with this with this entire project, and unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess, however you may look at it, some of these kind of fell heavier on you than some of the rest, and kind of propagates out to the rest of the team. But so with this entire project, what was your kind of takeaway? Obviously GH7 being the kind of the main product used, but cameras are one thing. Going into the project, with levels of expectation that maybe you have in your mind while you're setting up for pre-production, and then getting to location and having your situation, which I'm hoping you dive into as I'm leading up here. What was your kind of takeaway from it, and how did the GH7 assist or not assist what you needed it to do?
Typically of a product or typically of a project of this scale and vision, you scout. You have tons of pre-pro days. You get to see your location in advance. You have gear prep days. You're doing rehearsals, and you have enough time allocated that if weather gets in the way, you can capture what you've missed. And we didn't really have any of that. We sort of were thrust in blind to this location. I mean, myself, Josh, and Dustin had never seen it. I think Dylan was the only one that had been there before. So we had to be just hyper flexible to get this done. And that meant having kits that didn't take a long time to put together. It meant not having to switch from a photo to a video camera. And it meant that everything had to be tiny, because we really only had 2 trucks for all of us, plus all of our gear, plus a motorcycle. So you just simply can't have a bunch of big Pelican cases. And that's sort of where a lot of the teamwork came together. I mean, Dylan mentioned that sunset shot, and I think that's a perfect example of how we all sort of came together to get something epic. And I had this on the shot list from day one, that I wanted this epic silhouette of either the sun or the moon, depending on when we can sort of schedule it in.
Yeah.
And when we had finished the bulk of the hero shots for that day, we had the team sort of prepping and planning in the background using an app called Photo Pills to see where the sun was going to be in the frame. And we were just sort of prepping and hoping it would stay clear. And it had been cloudy all day up until this point. At the end of the day, the clouds magically opened up, and we had maybe like a 10-minute window to capture this. So when we see that it's possible, We're all running around like chickens with our heads cut off, and I'm trying to get Dylan 100 to 400 with the 2x extender, and we're like, where are the damn step-up rings? Because we have to use these really aggressive ND filters for shooting the sun at that focal length. Otherwise, you're going to destroy your sensor. So we're just like throwing gear everywhere. We're all trying to grab stuff and give everyone the right lens. And then as soon as we're situated, Dylan and Dustin just like run at Tom Cruise speed to try to get the shot. And we can't really even communicate with Seth. He's like a mile away at this point. And we're just sort of like using our arms to sort of like be that way. And it's insanely windy. You can see the sand and the dust just like thrashing through the scene. And everyone sort of came together to get one of, like Dylan was saying, the best shots of the entire project.
It was also really, I just got to pipe in, it was really cold that day too, and because of the wind. And yeah, just speaking to like the clouds magically opened for that shot, and they also kind of magically opened for like this big segment that we were trying to shoot for Jon that day too, because all morning it had been cloudy. It wasn't as windy, but yeah, all of a sudden the clouds open up and we're just like, oh, we got to go right now. The sun looks great and everything, like, and then we just all piped into, high drive and just got everything we needed right then and there. So
And actually, one element that was kind of cool, just speaking to the whole teamwork thing, is that Josh actually took his truck up the hill, and it was like right behind where Seth was, and he had no idea, but him being there kicked up a ton of dust, and so the shot that's actually in the video, the dust that's blowing is just from his truck picking it up. It wouldn't have been there if he hadn't gone up there. So that was a nice little element there.
So Josh, burnouts work, man.
I was gonna say, I'll have you know, I did be like, I went up there and put it on the brake and was giving it some to add more, because I was like, oh, the dust is what's looking amazing. So I'm up there, and I know the focus was on him, but if you would have seen, I'm up there doing some burnout to make it go up into it, and I'm glad, like, just seeing that photo alone, I'm like, check. Great work, guys.
So, Jon, so you had also mentioned, like earlier, there's with all kinds of projects, you touched on this before about, pre-production time and, planning that goes into all of these kinds of events. Every once in a while, there are, let's call them speed bumps that kind of happen with these projects. I mean, personally, it may have felt maybe a little bit more than a speed bump, but so obviously everything that we've talked about, it, from someone who maybe has never done any kind of like larger project like this, it sounds like sunshine and rainbows for all this stuff. But the reality is that things happen and stuff gets lost and airlines may misplace things. That's never happened to you, right?
Oh man, far too many times, unfortunately.
With things that, kind of come up, like losing pieces of equipment or airlines, misplacing a bunch of your stuff, how do you feel this either positively or negatively impacted the project across the board?
There are always going to be unknowns in any type of project, especially when the undertaking is a very ambitious one. There's only so much you can plan for. I've unfortunately had my luggage get lost a handful of times, and this was no special scenario. So if I could tell a story about that.
Mm-hmm.
So I had been planning for this project for months, from putting together gear perspective to the story to assembling the team. And one thing that I put a ton of time into was crafting the perfect kit of grip and rigging and every little knickknack that you would need to mount cameras to motorcycles, to trucks, to doing remote gimbal work, to just like every little bit and bob that you could ever think of. and I put it into my luggage. And every single time I check a bag, I sort of just pray that I'm going to see it again. I mean, I have an AirTag in my bag, but that only really makes the situation worse because you see that your luggage is not where you think it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So I get to the airport nice and early, and I have 3 bags with me. I've got my backpack full of camera equipment. I've got another carry-on full of gimbal and lights and other things. And then I've got this definitely over the weight capacity, massive luggage bag with like a bunch of grip equipment in it. So I get there nice and early to check in, and I just hope that I'm going to see it when I get to Vegas, which is where I flew into. I fly to Vegas, the flight's fine, and I'm standing at the baggage pickup, and I'm not seeing my bag. I see people get their bag one at a time, just walking away, and I start thinking all these thoughts of dread, like, no, there's no way.
Not this time.
And I wait till the very bitter end when there's absolutely no luggage left on the carousel, and I'm like, all right, something is not right. So I go into investigation mode, trying to find out what happened. And the airline simply didn't know. They said that your luggage is not here. We don't know where it is. We will try to figure it out. And I had to go to Utah with Josh. Josh was in Vegas for a large car event, and he was picking me up from Vegas. We were going to drive the 4 or 5 hours to his place in Utah, and then another 4 or 5 hours to Caneville, which is where we were shooting. So we just couldn't simply wait in Vegas for my luggage to show up.
Yeah.
We waited for 4 or 5 hours to see if it would be on the next flight. Nothing. And I had all my clothes in there, all my toiletries, and then all this grip and rigging equipment I had spent months organizing, including vibration dampeners, which were going to be critical for the shoot. Because of all the hard mounting we were going to do on cars and bikes, it reduces and prevents all the vibration that occurs from these engines. And so that was a critical component. And you might be telling yourself, like, oh, why didn't you just prep for not having that stuff?
It's so easy to criticize from the outside, right?
And I thought about that. I put all the actual most important stuff in my backpack and my carry-on, which was going to be camera, hard drives, lenses, and gimbal and other things like that. I couldn't pack another single thing without my luggage exploding open. So we get to Utah, and I'm constantly checking this baggage tracker app to see if it shows up. And at this point, I don't even know if I'm ever going to see it again.
Yeah.
But I just focus on buying some warm winter clothes, so I'm not going to die at these sub-zero temperatures at night. And we just have to carry on. And eventually, when we're out in the desert, I get a call from the airline. And the call is to tell me that they found my luggage.
Oh,
I'm like, oh, great, that's amazing. Like, can you guys get it to me? And they said,
no.
First of all, it's still in Toronto. And second of all, no, we can't get it to you. I asked if they could ship it out to me. They said it would probably be 2 weeks. I asked if somebody could pick it up when it gets to Vegas. They said it has to be legally me, and that I could pick it up when I get back to Vegas to fly out. And so I said, great, thanks so much. I'll see you later.
Yeah, thanks for nothing.
So I'm mentally going through all the pieces of equipment that I don't have access to anymore. And one of the most important things is going to be the vibration dampener. So we go into sort of DIY MacGyver mode, and Josh and I go to a hardware store, and I'm trying to think, like, what can replace a vibration dampener? And so I ended up finding these rubber grommets that are used to remove vibrations from dishwashers and laundry machines.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually just bought a bunch of those and a bunch of mounting hardware, and eventually we're able to use that to create this like quasi sandwich together between two cheese plates vibration dampener, completely sort of homemade from $4 worth of rubber grommets. So it losing the luggage forced us to be extra crafty because we didn't have any of my suction cup mounts, the hardcore ones. We didn't have any of my big grip arms. We didn't have any grip heads or maffers or Cardellini's or nano clamps. It was all missing. So we had to rely on what the rest of the team could bring to the project, which still was some equipment, but nowhere near what we needed to sort of accomplish the vision that I had, which is some insane hard rigging. But we made it all work. It's super impressive that we came together as a team, and like every single thing, every single shot I wanted to get, we were still able to do in sort of our own unique way.
So when can those of us that are viewing from the outside purchase this custom rigging design built by this group?
I'm too much of a creator mindset to think about selling a product, so I just go to a hardware store and buy rubber grommets, and you can call it the Simo sandwich.
There you go. There you go. So, obviously there is so much more, from a technical perspective that we can discuss about this particular project. And, for everybody that's tuned in and, kind of hung around and listened to everybody's, kind of feedback and your experiences, there is another opportunity that we are working on. There will be information available shortly where you can, hear these stories, hear the experiences, ask questions and actually interact in live, in one-to-one, and get actual technical information from everybody that you see on the screen here. That's going to happen a little bit later. But before we get into that, and before we, kind of post up where people can check those things out, I want to, first off, I want to thank all of you for taking the time. It is relatively late in the United States right now when we are recording this. It is currently 9 o'clock in Central Time in the US when we're doing this. And I just want to give everybody an opportunity to, kind of shout out where everyone can find you, where they can follow your content, where they can see the pieces as they come out. Because I believe by the time we post this recording, and hey, pro tip, this is recorded for everybody that's watching. If you've made it this far and you've realized we haven't answered your questions live, it's because it's recorded. To find out where everyone can follow you and check out the content as it comes out, or just in general, connect with all of you. I want to start, Jon, with you. Where can everyone find you, check out your content, and potentially learn from you?
It's just my name on every platform you can find, Jon Simo, Jonsimo. And between the four of us, we're all going to be posting sort of our own take on this content. So not only can you find the hero video and this really great in-depth documentary about the whole process on the LUMIX YouTube channels, you can find a deeper dive into different elements of the production, like how Dustin captured his dolly zoom, how Josh was able to get some of these hardcore shots, and you can watch Dylan's mini doc. So I'd recommend checking out sort of all of our content to build your own fully fleshed out picture of the project as a whole. And yeah, just connect with me on either Instagram. I'm super active on the LUMIX Discord community, which has been super exciting to be a part of. And you can literally ask me questions straight from you to me, and I'm happy to answer anything about the project.
Nice, nice. I love the call out to the Discord channel. Dylan, how about you? Where can people check out your work and kind of follow you?
Yeah, so you can find my stuff on YouTube or Instagram. Just my name, Dylan Kato, Dylnkato. And yeah. I mean, Instagram, YouTube, that's all I got.
I love that. Straightforward, to the point. You want to find me? Look my name up.
I like keeping it simple.
Put some respect on my name. How about hey Dustin? How about you, man? Where where can people check out your stuff? I mean, I know
Yeah,
you got a lot going on, man.
yeah, got so much going on all the time, but don't we all? Uh, yeah, the big place I'm most active is on my YouTube channel. It's Dustin Armstrong Pro, and it's the same on Instagram as well. And yeah, that's those are the places.
Yeah. You got anything else that that you've been doing where people can find you?
Um, yeah, I don't. Am I okay to plug that?
Oh, of
Uh,
course you are, man.
well, yeah, a big thing that I've been working on is kind of started a online course platform for anybody who wants to learn Lumix, learn the cameras, learn the settings, understand the settings, and become more confident in how they work so they can use them in their own productions. And yeah, it's course.learnlumix.com.
Hey, there you go. And
And
Josh.
I guess
Nope,
I'll
sorry, go ahead.
sorry, I'll just finish too. We've already got over 150 students as well already. So it's been amazing growth and I'm super pumped to just keep growing it. So
Okay, man.
and
That's
provide that value for the community.
that's it, man. That's it. That's it. All right, man. Come on. Calm down. Calm down, bro. Come on. Come on. No kidding. Go check it out. Josh, what about you, man? Where can people check out your content and everything that you're doing?
Um, just like everybody else, mine's my name, but I'm Joshua Walker. Is the thing. I am Joshua Walker on all the socials and YouTube. I'm gonna kick it off. I've said it for a long time, but typically all my stuff goes to clients. But I'm gonna kick off the YouTube and dive into that as well. So, but primarily Instagram. Um, Most of my work gets shared on there.
Very, very cool.
And
So,
Josh literally had to make a YouTube video for this project. This is part of the reason why I was trying to gently push him to start because I think he could crush it on YouTube with all the crazy shit that he does.
I
well,
agree.
hey, man, YouTube, it's I guess where the cool kids are because that was a really corny joke. Sorry, sorry. I'm just gonna go home now. But so for everybody that doesn't want to listen to everyone's explanation of where they can find them, obviously you can find that all down in the description below. Everyone's links, where you can find everybody, Dustin's courses, uh, and honestly, I think, as I kind of alluded to a little bit before, this is an initial conversation about this project. There's been some stuff that's already been posted on to social accounts for everybody here. We've had some of the stuff set up on our social media accounts as well, but there's a lot more coming with this entire project. There are the actual, kind of final pieces, each creator's perspective, the actual BTS, kind of documentary of this entire project, the hero project that's going to come out. So I highly encourage all of you to check everyone's content out, check everyone's social out, follow them. They are incredibly knowledgeable creators, photographers, videographers. I have firsthand experience, working with everybody here on the screen. And if my opinion is worth anything for any of you that follow Lumix and Lumix Live, these are the people you want to be following. Their experience, their knowledge, their willingness to share and show you the things that they can create, hopefully inspire all of you to get out there and create something similar. Whether it's your vision, whether it's kind of emulating someone else's vision, which is totally cool. Get out there, create stuff, connect with all of these people. And if you want to join us for a much more in-depth technical discussion, which I know a lot of everyone on YouTube wants, be sure to go check out the Discord. We launched and not actually launched. Let me be very clear about this. We, as Lumix, have now supported an existing Lumix Discord channel that was created by Matt Dainu, who, if you had seen Shutter Showdown as well, Matt Dainu was involved in that as well. he created an amazing Discord, an amazing community for people to connect that are looking for Lumix cameras, but also maybe if you don't own the cameras, you just want to learn more about it. You want to get into an entire community of people who are there to support others in their creative ventures. John, I know you mentioned it before. You've been active on there and guiding people and giving your perspective on ways that they can, kind of add that extra level to their YouTube video. I believe I just recently saw someone who just made their first YouTube video, and you provided some great insight into, tips on how to make the next one just that little bit much better, for their next outing with it. This entire community that is over on Discord, we as Lumix have decided to say, hey, this has been built, this already exists, let's support it. Let's give all of you a platform that's not just YouTube, that's not just email, that's not just a chat platform, but somewhere where you can share your images, share your video, connect with other like-minded creators, and really foster a proper community so that all of you have the best experiences you can moving forward. So I highly encourage you to go take a look at it. It's discord.gg/LumixUSA. The link will be down in the description below. And we are going to be continuing this conversation over there. We know a lot of you, as I mentioned before, really like technical sides of this conversation. And I am sure all of us are going to love to geek out on the technical side of it. So I encourage you to go take a look at that. Join us over on Discord. And again, thank you, all of you guys, for jumping on here late at night. Josh out in the middle of nowhere with those awesome freaking cars riding behind you. That firework that was like perfectly timed before. I hope you get to actually get some rest tonight now that the sun's down, or enjoy your night, whatever works for you. Same with you, Dustin and Dylan and John. I hope all of you guys have a great rest of your night. I thank you again so much for joining us. I think this was awesome. This was honestly, in my opinion, one of the best Lumix Live recorded sessions I've done in a very long time. So
nice.